Welcome, everyone. Descant, a form of expression in which a fixed melody is accompanied through improvisation, point and counterpoint leading to a greater awareness, leading to something more, something unique, something that is above the book. I'd like to welcome Patch and Grumpity Linden to VWBPE's Above the Book conversation about education and Second Life. Patch is the Senior Director of Product Operations, responsible for content production development, both in Second Life and Sansar, including all day-to-day operations. Grumpity Linden is the Director of Product for Second Life. As Director of Product, she manages the product team, which oversees a wide range of SL-related activities. Grumpity and Patch, I'd like to welcome you to Above the Book.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Excellent, thank you. Every year when we do these things, there's always a wide variety of conversations that we tend to get into. Everything from products, what you guys are doing at the lab, to how that influences on education. And so I know people will have a wide variety of questions that they'll want to ask. I'd like to start off, though, with a question on what's happened in the last year with regards to the Second Life and the Sansar environments, specifically as it applies to educations and nonprofits.
I think it is important to point out that both of us focus most of our attention on Second Life and not on Sansar. So we are not the best representatives to speak to all of the tremendous changes going on in Sansar over the past year. However, we're kind of watching from the sidelines and rooting for that team and that product. There's also been a lot of changes in Second Life, for which we are very proud. A lot of them have to do with general infrastructure developments and our continuous strides to make Second Life more performant, more stable, and a richer environment for all who are in world, which obviously very much extends to the education community. As well, there's been a fair amount of kind of content development and feature development. Some of the things that have come out recently, and there's been so much going on, it's kind of hard to think back over a whole year. I feel like the last quarter or so was eventful enough on its own. Recently, we had Animesh come out, which certainly we believe contributes to how educators can design their courses and make them more interactive for the participants. Linden Homes are about to come out, and I know those aren't directly tied to education, but if students are then interested in having their own place in SL, Linden Homes are a good place to start. A lot of infrastructure work still ongoing. We have an estate tools management viewer that is in RC, and actually an update just shipped a few minutes ago, which allows for better parcel management and estate management.
Right. Grumpy, could I get you to turn your voice on in world as well?
Absolutely.
I just got a quick note that people can't hear you in the audience.
I'm so sorry about that. How about now?
There we go.
Do you want me to start all over?
Yeah, let's try that. Let's do a do-over. Let's try that again.
I apologize for that. Let me try again. I started out by saying that we are not the team that works on Sansar, and though we are rooting for the success of the Sansar product, and we're watching from the sidelines. We're not necessarily the best to represent that product here. We'll try to answer some of the more general questions, but we'll have a hard time talking about specific features. That said, it's because all of our attention is directed towards Second Life. We are focusing most of our attention on infrastructure, a lot of our attention on infrastructure work, making Second Life more performant for all who are in world, and sometimes that's a very difficult task. A lot of the work, as I'm sure you've heard, of moving Second Life to the cloud is a lot of very carefully picking up and moving things over and trying not to disturb the way things are set up. And with a more than 15-year-old infrastructure, there's some complexity there. There's obviously a lot of feature work that goes on as well. And that includes the recent release of Animesh, the EAP changes that are still in progress that will allow for a more interactive environment for all, including, of course, educators and students. Big Sun metric coming, estate tools, which allow for better estate management, are coming, and a viewer update just went out for estate tools. Mobile work is ongoing, and that should be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how that impacts Second Life usage in the education areas as well. There's also a lot of content work going on, and Patch is best equipped to speak to that.
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff cooking in the content work pipeline right now. Linden Homes was mentioned. I don't know if it was mentioned in the go around for the second go, but
it was.
Okay. The project's actually really big, and we're really excited about that going out. Over the past year, we've had quite a few other things kind of happen with a redesign and relaunch of Linden Realms, which, again, not directly related to education and stuff, but students, if they're looking for things to do in world in their spare time and stuff, they could certainly go engage in something like that. Lots of gift stuff happening. We've also we had also participated with the SL15B crew last year in doing a lot of content work there, including the infrastructure. We had some region design work there that we did. So yeah, we've got a good bit of content stuff going on. We have some stuff coming up in the pipeline this year beyond Linden Homes that I don't want to necessarily unlid yet, but it'll be exciting. We have a lot of stuff in store.
Excellent. Grumpy, I'd like to come back to a couple of different things that you mentioned, because I think a couple of the infrastructure changes are certainly going to be of interest to educators and nonprofits.
Absolutely.
The first is with regards to, you were talking that there's some new things on the horizon on the mobile front.
There's not a lot to report yet. There's work being done to make it possible, because Second Life was, of course, developed not for a mobile use case. There are a lot of complexities. We are working specifically on an iOS viewer for now. And the first iteration that we're looking at is to make a robust text-based viewer. One of the exciting things I want to mention there is that this viewer should be able to take advantage of the native accessibility features in iOS. So whatever assistive tech exists there will be available for accessibility on the mobile viewer.
Right. And then you were also talking about cloud, and that the work is continuing with regards to moving a lot of the infrastructure to the cloud. Is that going to translate into lower costs for education and educators and nonprofits?
I would love to say yes, but we really have no projections.
I wasn't trying to put you on the spot.
We have no projections about where costs will go. For the time being, the migration from the data center to the cloud is actually quite expensive for us. It's taking a lot of resources, and there's a lot of additional cost. Obviously, our goal is to be more efficient and streamlined, but that has to be a few years into the future. So you got me there. I can't promise anything.
No, that's okay. We have to ask. I guess one of the other things that I'm curious about is you were talking about the estate tools and how those are going to be improving. Do you have some examples of how those are going to improve?
I'll share a link in chat momentarily. And then that link will also have a link to release notes.
Excellent. Okay. Patch, you were referring to Linden Homes and a few other things on the content side. Could you expand upon a few of those?
A little bit. Because we haven't launched yet, I don't want to reveal too much about what's going on, but the Linden Homes project itself is a complete redesign of, Linden Homes themselves as a concept and how we thought about them. We're taking a much more organic approach to them. If you think about the old Linden Homes that were in place, and by the way, I also just had a note that Grumpity might have not been coming through on Skype, but the structure of the regions themselves are being designed rather organically and stuff, so there's not a lot of repetition involved. We are going to feature a lot more home styles and types and choices, lots more customization options in the homes themselves. Part of the work that we're doing, we're kind of moving the feature selection of the homes from the web-based tool that's there now to the home themselves, and putting in modern control panels for like access control and decoration options and things of that nature. The continent will grow as we continue to roll these things out. I know a lot of pretty eagle-eyed residents and stuff have already seen where it's sitting and can see how big it is. But I will say it will get much bigger, and we will do things like expand continent connections, water pathways, with sailable waters, navigable spaces for flying. So yeah, it's a really big undertaking. Team's really proud of the progress we're making so far. So yeah, stay tuned. You'll get to see a lot more probably here in the next week or two.
Excellent. Okay. I'm just getting a quick reminder from the transcriptionists that if I can get you guys to speak just a tiny bit slower so that they can keep up, that would be great. That's okay. I'm using Dragon Naturally Speaking myself, and even it's having a tough time keeping up. So I completely understand. So Patch, I guess a lot of the focus then on the content side is about I don't know quite how to put this, the structural and how to put nice buildings and other things in place. Is there some consideration for improving ongoing tools, such as what you might have seen behind us is that we have presentation tools, the ability to bring in video, the ability to share files. For the purposes of education, sharing of these particular types of things is very important. Is there any work being done on this front?
Not per se, not by my team. Those particular types of tools and such, they haven't probably been visited in a long time. So things like media on a prim per se isn't something that we've really focused on in a while. That's not to say that the team and I aren't open to potentially looking at that. I haven't really seen any requests come in recently with any ideas for any kind of enhancements or feature improvements, as it were, for something like that. But I would be interested in maybe seeing them.
If you've got a day, we've got a lot to do.
I figured as much. But per se, my team isn't probably going to be the team that would actually develop that type of stuff. We are actually consumers of our own tools more than we are actually the folks behind making them. So we make the demonstrations of the tools that Grumpity's team and the development and engineering staff come up with to showcase them to all of you.
Right. So we are consumers, and we have a long-standing tradition of eating our own dog food as well. We frequently come up on the limitations of the presentation tools in Second Life. The work that had been done was to upgrade the Chromium, the Chrome embedded framework that is used to show web content in Second Life. It's actually quite amazing, the sorts of things you can put on a prim, but there are still limitations. I agree. We don't have a specific project to focus on that work on the roadmap, but it would be interesting to see a concrete proposal. I agree.
So what is the basis of the market that you guys are actually aiming the new products and features at right at the moment? Obviously, educators will take advantage of anything that's made available, but I'm assuming there's a specific demographic group that you're really interested in.
Actually, we try to do a little bit for everyone. For example, when we look at our roadmap for the year, we try to focus a little bit on the homeowners and a little bit on the premium members and a little bit on the creators and a little bit on the new users and a little bit on the consumers. The fascinating and complex thing about Second Life is the communities that make up Second Life. And they're very varied. The ways that people use Second Life continue to amaze us pretty much daily. And their particular applications are unique across the board. So what we try to do when we lay out our plans for any given year is to make sure that we do touch on things that affect all of those communities, or as many as we possibly can.
Right. Anything specific for educators that you could let us in on?
When we think about education, we think about successful partnerships. For example, we work with one service provider that works with education and with universities. Recently, and a lot of the feedback that we get from them is relevant to the entire education community because they run up against the same limitations that I expect all of you do. Recently, we did some work with them to highlight their efforts. I expect some of you have seen it. There was a video. We also highlighted a demonstration area. So, for example, that they have in the destination guide. So for example, if you have a publicly accessible area where you demonstrate the sorts of things that are done, we are happy to highlight that in the destination guide, in various other social media that we use as well. And we're always happy to work with you on figuring out how to highlight quality content that's being produced by the education community.
Here's some clapping in the background there.
I don't even know if that had anything to do with me, but it's in the office. I'm in Battery today, and
Oh, well, there we go.
apparently it's somebody's code worked. Nothing to do with anything I said.
Here we go. The how are and this question is for both of you. How do you feel that I know you said that you're working with a couple of different partnership groups. Obviously, this group is a very large representation of the education community and the nonprofits. How do you see the development of since you've come into these roles? How have you seen the development of education impacting on how you're moving forward with things? Has it changed your perspective on different things that I guess different priorities for the environments?
So a lot of what I've kind of worked on, and Grumpity mentioned, like one of the particular partners that comes to my mind that I've actually traditionally have had a really long running relationship with in the educational sector, has given us a lot of really good feedback over the years. And, when I think about, things going forward, one of the items that tends to be a bit of a hot topic with me is being able to onboard new users into Second Life, really easily and as easy as possible for you guys. We put a lot of work into redesigning Reg API, which is a feature specifically we built up around the educational use case so that schools, could bring students directly into Second Life, into your campus spaces and world, as it were, and possibly even brand the accounts specifically unique to your educational facilities and schools, by name, so that they're very recognizable out there. That's something that we're looking to continue to keep going and assisting the educational community with, being that it is fairly freshly still in my mind rebuilt as a tool. I'm always looking for ways to grow it and to get it more kind of into more hands, as it were, with the educational facilities out there. So I am actually always open to feedback for that. When it comes to how we can make it, any better or any different or easier to use, for your use case.
Right. And how does accessibility play into that? You'll have to apologize. I moved my cursor, so it's not going in local chat here. How does accessibility play into that? When you're talking about making things easier, improving the new user experience, there's a lot of groups in here which have accessibility requirements. They're not the average user, so to speak. Are there improvements going to be made there as well, or?
Well, so if you're not familiar with how the Reg API and the gateway system works, actually accessibility from a registration standpoint is largely up to, the registration portal owner because it's their own design. We give you an API to interface with us to create accounts on the back end, but everything on the front end, as far as website design and stuff. So I would then imagine that, the accessibility of that sign up design would be reliant on the person making that portal for themselves or their school or facility.
Right. Sorry, go ahead, Grumpity.
Sorry, I just wanted to add on to what Patch has said. When building new tools, we make an effort to keep accessibility at the forefront. Unfortunately, as I'm sure the communities that require accessibility in Second Life know, there's a significant challenge for the viewer UI. The challenge is that the viewers' chat and text and all of the user interface is actually part of the stuff that we draw on the screen for you, the same way we draw an avatar. As a result, it's very difficult to have built-in tools that make the UI more accessible. And so we have to rely on third-party tools that are built as text-only tools frequently. So there was at least one third-party viewer that was a good supplement for a while. Unfortunately, the development on that viewer has stalled. I hear that there are plans to move that forward again. It's a really tough question. Because making the viewer itself more accessible requires basically starting from scratch. And right now, we just do not have the resources to do that with the viewer. This is why, for example, I have such high hopes for the mobile viewer. This is still a little bit of a ways off, but hopefully, if I'm sitting here next year, I'll be able to tell you the strides that we've made on that front.
Well, and we'll be able to have you on a mobile viewer, I hope, by that point.
I hope so. I'm staring over the developer who's working on that right now. No pressure.
None whatsoever. I've noticed over the last year and a half that there are some features that were part of the viewer that have been slowly disappearing. So, for example, the ability to automatically capture text, keep it in a log file. All of those features seem to have disappeared. Is there a particular reason why some of these things have been removed?
I apologize. I'm not sure I know what you're referring to.
Oh, okay, all right, no worries. We can bypass that particular question.
But you know what? If there was a case where we didn't publicly talk about that, a bug report in Jira would allow us to investigate and let you know if it was intentional.
Okay, all right. No, that's excellent. It's sometimes we get used to, as educators, we get used to working with certain features. And then all of a sudden they disappear, which means that we have to sort of redevelop some of the things that we're working on. And my apologies. Let me just cross-check something here. So I guess what I'd like to do at this point is go out to the audience and see if the audience has any questions here that they'd like to share.
Certainly. Just as a follow-on to the previous question, I wanted to say that we make a ton of effort to ensure that as much backwards compatibility as possible is preserved, specifically because there's both old content from creators who are no longer there, and because there are features which our residents rely on based on the way things work. that we want to preserve. So we try very hard to keep things as compatible as possible as we move forward, add features and make changes. Sometimes that's impossible. There's a lot of craft in the Second Life infrastructure. So we try to strike a balance between cleaning things up and keeping things working.
So let me check with the audience here. Are there any questions that people would like to ask of either Patch or Grumpity? You'll have to put your, Marley, you'll have to put your question in text. Okay, I'm not quite sure if I caught that. It's something to do with the search.
So we do have a project on the roadmap to work on search. As with most things Second Life, it's quite complex. There are many different parts of Second Life which search looks at. And so I can't commit to any specific improvements to the search engine. But once we start working with it, we're bound to make changes. A few years ago, we made significant changes to the marketplace search. And while it disrupted some of the things people had come to rely on, overall, we saw the results pick up and a positive change. That project, I have to tell you, was painful and complex and took much longer than anticipated. I am a little bit afraid of how the Second Life as a whole search update will go as well.
Okay. We did have a couple of questions about, again, the mobile platform. You had mentioned earlier that iOS was your, I guess, sort of the first priority. Where does Android stand in relationship to that?
It will be the next area of focus. We, after doing some amount of evaluation, we realized that we needed to focus on one platform at a time. And because there are existing third-party solutions for Android, but none that cover iOS thoroughly, we decided to focus our efforts on iOS first.
Okay, and how does how is that going to influence the current age restrictions in Second Life currently if mobile apps are going to be more accessible by, well, I guess K through 12 students who are under the preferred 17-year-old limit? Are there any challenges there that you guys are looking at? So I believe at the moment, the bottom age range is 13 and up, if I'm correct.
So here we step into some legal territory that's got nothing to do with the application that you're using to access Second Life and everything to do with various legal regulations that we're bound by. So the mobile app coming online would have zero effect on that. If there are any changes to the ages at which residents are able to access Second Life. It will not come from mobile. It will come as a policy change.
Okay. We also had another question, similar but not exactly the same. Is there ever a chance that someday Linden Lab might consider a creative grid that doesn't allow 18 plus content, adult content, so that schools can use the environment without having to worry about younger kids being exposed to that adult content?
So again, just to kind of echo what Grumpy said, those are policy changes, right? However, Sansar actually does probably lend itself to that particular segment now pretty well, in fact, and handles it. While Sansar is still, achieving feature richness and such, I would kind of keep an eye on that space, maybe for that more immediately. And, we'll always, of course, keep up with tracking that ourselves for Second Life, and we'll see, where that might go. I, being as long as I've been around, I remember the teen grid very well. I used to work on it. So, the idea of a second grid to me is not foreign for that kind of purpose. But, at the moment, it's not probably something on our roadmap that we would look at doing yet.
Yeah, and I would like to say that there have been a lot of changes to Sansar in the past year, and education in VR is becoming more of a reality than a dream. So I would say that there's definitely a future there.
Yeah. Is the roadmap that you guys have both been referring to, is that actually published anywhere so that people can view what's upcoming?
No.
No.
I think the closest we come to publishing our roadmap is that famous SL 16 for 16, 15 for 15. 16's coming up. SL 15 for 15 that we published last year, and I know that there have been many questions about where we are on some of the things promised on that list, and we haven't abandoned any of them. But as Second Life goes, things take time.
Okay, so I'm just checking to see if we have any more questions from the audience here. Oh, here we go. Does Linden Lab have specific plans for artistic development? Or artist development, sorry.
What sort of artist development? I may not understand the context.
Yeah, Marcel, can you expand on that a bit?
I could take a stab at it in the dark, but I don't want to do the question injustice. The LEA, okay, that was actually where I was going to go. So right, the LEA is currently on hiatus, and we are actually working in the background with not only them, but also some other folks that have kind of stepped up and have been talking to us from the community about some potential ideas that they had to maybe move things forward there again. So we certainly haven't forgotten about that side of the community with the artists and stuff. I would say, watch for some more developments in that area to come soon. But we certainly, it's actually active. It's actively being discussed in the background right now, between everything that I've got going on with some various other projects like Linden Homes getting ready to launch and such. But it's not fallen off my plate.
Okay. How can we as educators assist in the professional marketing of Second Life? There used to be a very strong connection between educators and a lot of people that came into this particular environment. So I'm wondering where we could potentially go with this in the future.
This is a great question. I love it, partially because I get to redirect it to our awesome marketing team, and specifically to Brett Linden, who has been doing a fantastic job heading up the marketing team. If you have specific ideas for how we could partner to grow Second Life in general and the education sector in particular, we're always listening. And you can reach out to us. You can submit feature requests if there are specific features that you think would help. There are also, I'd like to give some props to the community gateways that exist today. Community gateways are our partners in onboarding users. They make use of the tool we spoke about earlier of Reg API. Some of them do, some of them do not. And they do a fantastic job of onboarding users. But I have to say, anecdotally, the best way to market Second Life is to tell everyone you know how much you love Second Life. Those are the people that come in and stick.
I want to come back to an earlier question that we had with regards to the amount of bandwidth used to access Second Life. With a mobile option, is there also an intent to reduce the barriers for students that might be on a very thin bandwidth?
Wow, that's a tough one. We try to ensure that Second Life stays performant on a variety of platforms, but there are technical limitations that you hit that we just can't do much about. I don't know of a whole lot of 3D applications that will work over bad bandwidth. We just gotta, we have to be able to send a certain amount of data and get a certain amount of data back. And when you have a bad connection, a lot of it gets lost on the way.
I think I can probably add on a little bit to that from the content perspective. Being that Second Life is very, UGC based and centric, right? I actually am kind of interested to watch as we do something like put out mobile clients or viewers like that, to see how various other content creation, communities and segments out there might leverage making much lighter mobile-friendly content that is really fast and optimized, easy to render, low bandwidth performant, and in fact, I won't tip my hat too much on this, but we have actually experimented that some with ourselves with a new user onboarding experience, but I'll leave that at that to say that, I think it's possible to achieve, something like performant low bandwidth usage in Second Life, as long as the content, the avatars and everything all kind of fall in line in that, kind of respective, highly efficient, well-designed pipeline that you would have to make that work.
Okay, I'm going to ask a follow-on question to that because I know this question has been asked previously, or rather in previous years. And I think I already know the answer, but it's sort of related. does the limited number of groups come from a design issue? And, does the limit in the structure of groups help or limit your efforts to sort of provide additional content and services?
I don't know. What did they tell you last time?
Well,
kidding.
we've had the group conversation before, and I believe the answer has basically been, this is every time you add another group, you expand the number of potential connections exponentially.
That's absolutely true. So that said, we have been doing, when we talk about infrastructure work, I know it sounds kind of generic and is like the thing people probably say when they have nothing to say. But in this case, it's absolutely true. We do a lot of work behind the scenes to make things more robust. We were able to increase the number of groups for premium members. That's been a very popular feature. And we have continued to do work to make groups more robust. I'm not going to tip my hand any more than that.
Well, there we go. Okay. Let's see, we have a question here from Buffy. How can Linden Labs help with changing the long-standing perception that it's just a quote-unquote CD world, and that the good that goes on here in educations and nonprofits creatively sort of goes unnoticed?
Well, I think much like what Grumpity said earlier, I don't think that perception is, I don't think that perception is as real anymore, certainly, as it was maybe at one particular point in time. But the work that we have been doing, especially recently, with all of the improvements we've made to Second Life, the good word of people being spread about what Second Life is all about, all of the positive messages that we see nowadays, over the past good handful of years, I think have really kind of set Second Life up to continue to grow and to be around for a very long time. So I think as we move forward, those days are behind us, and hopefully this won't be basically a topic that we'll have to revisit anytime soon.
Here's hoping. That said, I'd like to point out that Second Life is very open-minded and welcoming, and that does mean that we welcome all sorts of communities with very different interests. That means that there will be people out there who go, oh my God, they have restrained love. And we do. And we welcome that community, and we are accepting of it. We have lots of different communities. So it's inevitable that someone will find some of them objectionable, as long as they're not against the terms of service, and they're not violating any of our rules. They're welcome. But I agree. We've done a lot of work recently to change the narrative about Second Life, and we continue to do so. And I think just continuing to put out messages about all of the good work and all of the good things that happen within Second Life is the way we change that perception.
Yeah. I'm going to ask one more follow-up question here, and then we're going to have to wrap up. But I would hope that you both could stick around, because I'm quite sure everybody here would love to ask more questions after we've finished up the broadcast. From your perspective, how do you see, and of course now I get stuck on my words, how would you like to see your interaction with the education community proceed going forward?
That's a great question. I think as a company, we certainly stumbled in the past, and I feel like we're getting our footing back these last few years. I would like us to have a more open forum for conversation, so that we can both be more responsive to the needs of the education community and be more aware of the work that's being done, so that we can highlight your work and you can influence ours.
Okay, and Patch, same question to you.
Well, I actually tend to maintain a pretty close relationship, and so does my team, with a lot of the educational, community as it is now. We work with you guys for this event. We work with a lot of the universities and stuff directly. They come to my team specifically for your support and land usage needs. So to me, the question is a little, it's a little challenging for me to answer because I already, am so deeply involved from many different angles. I actually, kind of going back to the other question earlier about marketing and stuff, I want to try to, help facilitate something like that, to, spread word of the educational uses that are very relevant and valid for using Second Life with universities and schools and such, and get that out there. That to me is very important. And then how I can facilitate helping them come in and use Second Life as a platform to the best of their ability is what I do. And so that's kind of what I probably look forward to in that regard.
Okay, and if an educational institution or a group wanted to follow up and have a more detailed conversation, is there a best way to get in contact with you both?
For me and my team, the best place to get in contact with us is through the support portal. Those educational facility tickets that come in, or the educator community tickets that come in to support, do go specifically to that team. And I work with them very closely to, help them do whatever it is, needs to be done there. And the team, specifically is set aside to help them. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
I am happy to be pinged in Second Life, or to get email, or to see tickets in JIRA, depending on the type of requests that we're looking for. If these are feature requests or bug reports, they're places in JIRA. Our team diligently triages all of them regularly, and they're the best place to be seen. But if we're talking about larger ideas for cooperation, any way that you can reach me is fine. I am Grumpity here and Grumpity at Linden Lab. So I look forward to it.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to thank you both very much for taking an hour out of your day to come talk to us here. If you're, like I said, if you're available to stick around, I'm quite sure other people have questions that they would like to ask. But again, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll be able to follow up on some of the roadmap items by this point next year.